Hello, little artist. Today we are making a silly face pencil cup, or a new home for Mr. Brush. You can also put any art supplies in this cup. For today's art project, you need some type of clay, you need a recycled and clean glass jar, texture tools, paints, and some type of sealer that I will show you how to make later on in the video. I wanted to show you guys some pieces of pottery over the next part of this video. You're going to see what's called a face jug. The face jug originated from enslaved Africans in the Americas. So the artists of these face jugs were actually Africans that had become enslaved during the 18th and 19th century. They used clays from the area. So clay is actually a natural resource. It's dug up from the ground, and it can be all kinds of different colors like brown and black and gray and even white. So if you notice how these face jugs have these white teeth and these white eyes, that is from the different clays that they would dig up around the areas. There are so many different ideas about what these jugs were actually used for, but all historians can agree that pottery was functional. That means it had a purpose. It wasn't just there to look pretty, it actually had to hold something. They didn't have plastic and glass as prevalent as we do today. They didn't have plastic at all, but they used these big clay jugs to store things in. There's different ideas though about what the faces actually mean. What do you think they mean? It's a tricky one, isn't it? If you look through the faces, some you might think are scary, some are silly, some are grotesque. But one idea, one theory is that these faces are put on the jug to keep intruders or to keep children away from finding or taking what was inside of them. But like I said, there's many different ideas. So I thought you could look at these and maybe get some ideas for your face jug or your pencil cup today. All right, the first step is to find a recycled glass jar. So here's one that I've washed out. Looks pretty sturdy. I can put my art supplies in it. It will hold it nicely. If you don't have an old glass jar that you can use, you can also look around. Maybe you have a cup. I found this little cardboard one that would work pretty nicely as well for this project. So just look around your house and see what you have. All right, we're ready to cover this jar with our salt dough clay. So I'm just gonna break off some of my squishy clay here, and I'm going to flatten it out around the jar. So I'm pressing it down and smoothing it. I want to cover the whole jar with clay, or with our salt dough. All right, you want to keep doing this until the whole jar is covered. Okay, you don't want any glass showing. We are tricking the eye with this project. One trick that you can do is once you get the clay on the jar, you can press the jar down onto the table or your working surface and kind of roll it to squish it onto the glass and to make it nice and smooth and even. Once I finish adding clay all over my glass jar, I'm gonna start making the facial features for my silly face. You can see I have some texture tools here, an old spoon and a battery, and even a glue cap to help me press out those eyeballs. For the mouth, I rolled out a coil and another coil and joined those together. One thing you want to remember when you're making this is to make sure that you kind of press those facial features into the clay on the jar so that they will stick and not fall off. All right, I have my face jug, my pencil holder here that has dried out in the sun. It took him quite a while. It might take yours up to 2 days, 1 or 2 days in that Abu Dhabi heat. All right, I'm gonna use acrylic paint. That is a thicker paint that allows more coverage to paint my silly face cup holder here. Just remember, take your time, try your best, and have fun. I've let my jar dry even more outside, and then I can add a second layer, kind of this dry brush stroke, and I'm using the end of my paintbrush to get these orange polka dots all over this little jar. This is gonna be so funny looking when I am done. Because we're using salt dough clay, we want to add an extra layer of protection, something called a sealer. If you have Mod Podge, if you get to go to the art store, you can buy that. But an easy way to make your own at home, just to help make this a little bit stronger, is to mix equal parts white glue with water. So I'm just gonna stir that up. And then I'm gonna paint all over my face jug or my pencil holder. It's gonna look a little funny at first. It's gonna look white and kind of opaque. But once it dries, it will dry clear, just like this. And there you have it, your very own pencil holder with a silly face. I cannot wait to see what you make. Remember, take your time, try your best, and have fun.